Today, we're diving into a really personal and powerful story called Am Layla, which means I am Lila. And trust me, this is more than just a novel. It's like a roadmap for finding your way back to yourself, especially after you felt completely and utterly lost. So, let's get into it.
Wow. Okay, so the story kicks off with this incredibly raw dedication. It's not for friends or family, it's for the people who let her down. This one sentence just hits you, right? It immediately sets the stage for a story that's literally built from the ashes of being let down and left behind.
And this dedication, it's really the key that unlocks the whole thing. This is a story for anyone who's ever felt broken, for anyone who felt like their pain was just invisible to everyone else. It's all about those silent battles that we all fight when nobody's looking.
So, let's meet Lila. If you saw her on the street, you'd think she was fine. Composed, functional, probably even smiling. But on the inside, it's a whole different world. We're talking a massive storm of emotions, feeling totally lost, and basically just screaming on the inside. This huge contrast, this gap between what the world sees and what she feels, that's the core conflict of her entire journey.
And this inner chaos, it's not just a bad mood or a tough week. It's described as a labyrinth, a maze. We're going to go a little deeper now into just how suffocating her inner world really was. A place where it felt like every single turn just led to more and more pain.
First up, the memories. These aren't just passing thoughts. Nope. They're like these relentless ghosts that are constantly on replay, showing her scenes of hurt and betrayal over and over again.
Then, on top of those haunting memories, her emotions are just completely tapped out. I want you to think of your phone battery after a long day, when it hits zero and won't even turn on. That was Lila. She had absolutely nothing left to give, just this deep, hollow emptiness.
So you take the painful memories, you add the drained emotions, and it all leads to this profound sense of being alone. And it's the worst kind of loneliness, right? The kind you can feel even when you're in a room full of people, which just makes the isolation feel so absolute.
So you have to ask, what's the root cause of all this suffering? Well, it boils down to this one crucial idea: emotional dependence. Lila was completely trapped. Her entire sense of who she was, her happiness, her self-worth, it was all tied to someone else. So when that person abandoned her, her entire world just crumbled because it was built on a foundation that she never really owned in the first place. But even in the darkest maze, all it takes is one single spark of light to show you the way out. And that brings us to the turning point of this whole story. A single conversation that is about to change absolutely everything for Lila. So picture it. She's at her absolute lowest point. She's broken, she's lost, and she's staring into the void with this one terrifyingly simple question: where do I go from here? And I think it's a question a lot of us have probably asked ourselves when we've hit our own rock bottom. And the answer she gets? It's tough, but it's also incredibly liberating. It's the hard truth she had to finally accept. The hero she was waiting for, the person she thought would rescue her, they weren't coming. The only one who could pull her out of that darkness was herself.
This realization is a total game changer. It's like this spiritual light bulb goes off. She understands that all the strength she was so desperately trying to get from other people was actually inside her the whole time. By looking inward and connecting with her faith, she basically changes her power source from something external and shaky to something internal and unbreakable.
And right there, with that new understanding, that's when the real work begins. And listen, this is no magical overnight fix. This is a journey. It's a slow, deliberate process of rebuilding her entire life, piece by painful, but ultimately empowering piece.
So how did she do it? Well, she took it one step at a time. First, and this is so important, she finally acknowledged her vulnerability instead of hiding it. Then, she started setting firm boundaries to protect her own energy. From there, she began to rediscover what gave her life purpose. And finally, she started to build a brand new life, but this time on her own terms. And the results of all that hard work is, well, it's a total transformation. She goes from being dependent and full of despair to this whole new person. She becomes self-reliant, she finds a real inner peace, she develops a sense of self-worth that isn't dependent on anyone else's approval, and maybe most important of all, she finds hope again.
So, Lila's story is obviously super compelling. But what's the bigger message here? Why does her personal journey matter to all of us? Beyond just the pages of a book?
The story really leaves us with some big, essential truths. First, that your inner world needs just as much attention and care as your outer one. Second, that real strength is about choosing yourself, even when that's the hardest possible thing to do. It also reminds us that it is never, ever too late to just start over and write a new story for yourself. And finally, and this one is huge, true healing isn't about finding someone else to complete you. It's about finding yourself.
And so that brings us right here, to the final question. After watching Lila go from being just a character in someone else's drama to becoming the author of her own life, the question kind of gets turned back on us. Her story's written, but what story will you choose to live?